Okay. Okay. So, this is me, the 7th of February of 2022. I got a phone call from a number in Madrid, but I was in the school bus of an only boys school. And for those who have never been in such a school bus, it is not the right place to pick up an important call. And I knew this was an important one. So I waited, and when I got back home, I answered the call. And it went something like this. Who's this? Angel. I was shaking. Well, congratulations, you will be attending UWC Maastricht next year. This was a very exciting moment considering the small chances of getting in amidst such a large pool of applicants. But I managed to very stoically tell my parents, Mom, Dad, I will be leaving home to study abroad next year. But amidst all the excitement, I quickly realized what this meant. I was not only leaving home, but joining a new environment, a new community, a new extremely diverse community. And I started thinking that I was going to attend a place with people coming from all over the world, with people coming from parts that I have never been to and parts that I have never heard of. So I started wondering, how do people from outside Spain act? How do they say hello? How do they behave at the dinner table? But most importantly, how do they think? What are their standards? So I wrote down on a list what could people from outside Spain think? Because having lived in Spain all my life, I was scared of not being as diverse as they could be. How am I, someone who has been raised for all his life in Spain, a white middle-class boy from La Rioja, diverse at all? And I wrote it down, and how maybe I should think like this, maybe I should act like that. I call this the diversity list. And I came up with the perfect plan. Next day I went to school. I would, from the very beginning, the moment I hop on my school bus, follow the diversity list. And that's what I did. And the day continued normally until the very last lesson where my tutor called me into his office. So I entered and I sat down on the chair and I told him, what's going on? And he told me, well, I wanted to call you into my office because how you have behaved today has been the most mature behavior I have seen in a while. He didn't really say that. It sounded more like, what has happened to Angel? And then I quickly realized what I was doing when writing this diversity list. I was trading who I was to become more like the rest. I was trading my uniqueness, hoping to become more unique. How is this diverse? Right? This made me realize that it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter how were you raised, who you are, how simple your background can be. You are unique, and this is what my tutor made me see. So, when I got finally to UWC Maastricht, I threw away the diversity list because I don't need that to be myself. I was just going to be authentic, I was going to be who I was. And so I did. And while being yourself sounds easy, it becomes a bit harder when you are welcomed into your room by a Mongolian, Bulgarian, and Lebanese roommate. My floor was composed of 24 students and 24 nationalities. That sounds quite diverse, right? Well, it was not. In every community meeting, I noticed that people were not really owning up to their diverse backgrounds. They were standing in the things that they shared and they had in common. And this is what tends to happen when you join a diverse, in fact, any community. A common ground with common thoughts tends to be born. This is all that our diversity had to offer, and this is where we were, stuck in this little area that I call the common ground. But I had clear that I wanted to be myself. I was going to be authentic, and I was. But this proposition of different viewpoints was not really welcomed very well. It was welcomed with a lot of friction. For example, the 12th of October, all of the students in my school and staff members received an email advocating for the absence of celebrations during the anniversary of Cristobal Columbus' arrival to America due to the era of colonization that this led to. This email was sent by a student, and having been raised in Spain all my life, for me the 12th of October was also a national celebration. So this is what I did. You know that very, very, very scary reply all button that you make sure to not press when you're replying to a massive email like this one? I intentionally pressed that button because I wanted to show my perspective that while the colonization arising from Columbus' arrival to America should clearly be condemned, the 12th of October in Spain represents a commemoration of a nation that has much greater history than this era. And thus, it should not be undermined, but rather understood from the perspective of someone who has been raised in Spain all his life. But I received a lot of criticism. In fact, very often, I was accused of not being diverse enough, when in fact, I was being diverse. I was speaking outside the common ground. I was sharing the differences that we don't have in common. And this initial reaction of rejection should not really surprise us, because when we are being educated in diversity, we are not told that uniqueness and authenticity is what we need to move from the common ground to the maximum potential of diversity. Oxford English Dictionary defines the term diversity as the quality, condition, or fact of being diverse or different. Difference, dissimilarity, divergence. There is a clear appeal to the idea of difference, but once again, if we are different but only share what we have in common, what is the purpose of all of that? But this was just a definition. I knew I needed a more precise, sophisticated, modern, universal way of looking into the term diversity. So I Googled it. And when I did, I came across ideas such as inclusion, communication, respect, authenticity, nowhere to be seen. But anyway, this is just Google. I wanted to test it by myself. What do people actually think is the most important ingredient for diversity? So I emailed my entire school community, one of the most diverse places in the world, and also some of my online followers, asking them, for you, what is the most important ingredient to achieve a diverse environment? And interestingly, here were the responses. Amongst terms such as inclusion, education, equity, the term authenticity was voted less than 17%. This received hundreds of votes, but authenticity, not so many. That's why it is important to realize that when we are not told that authenticity is important, we are not going to welcome it in a new environment. When someone comes in and brings different viewpoints, this is not going to be welcomed. And it must also be understood that diversity is not only cultural diversity arising from dropping 200 random students into a very small campus in the middle of Maastricht. Diversity also includes age diversity, appearance diversity, or skill diversity that you can find in a school football match. And everyone has been in an environment, and every environment is diverse, but we are still yet not aware of the danger of staying in the common ground. Now, I am sure that everyone at some point will join a new environment, a new school, a new university, a new job, a new city. And amongst all of these shared experiences, there is this common fear of, will I fit in there? Now, when you are faced with this fear, I encourage you to actually ask yourself, will I fit in there? Because when you ask this question, you are able to answer it from an authentic point of view, because you're asking it to yourself. And when I asked myself this question, my answer was, no, I won't fit in there. And what I tried to do to overcome it was make a diversity list to force myself to fit in there. I wanted to have a yes as an answer, but now when I look back at it, I realize that the actual correct answer to this question should be no. No, I won't fit in there. Because it is only then that you have something to offer to your community and something to get away from it. And if you ask yourself this question, or in its present form, do I fit in here? And your honest response is yes, then it is probably time to move on. You are a blue pen standing close to a blue pen. You have nothing to give, nor to offer. And this is natural to happen because with time, when you're being authentic and share your differences, it all naturally drags you down towards the common ground. With every small conversation and every small moments in which your ideas are challenged, you tend to move towards this common ground. So eventually everyone should be saying, yes, I fit in here, it is time to move on. Now, I experienced this myself. When I joined UWC Maastricht, I started a YouTube channel and my website where I constantly shared my perspective on many topics and my experience. And when now I painfully look back at it, at the first post that I ever put out, I realized the evolution that I have been through. And the selfless beauty of being authentic is that it pushes others to be so as well. We have to understand that when you stand out of the group follows it. So once I started being authentic and I replied to that email the 12th of October, the email received a lot of replies from people outside this community. And a whole email thread was generated with people constantly sharing contrasting viewpoints to what I thought was common sense. Now, let me tell you that this was one of the most interesting events to happen in UWC Maastricht for a while, with everyone constantly re-uploading their emails to check for new replies. And everyone that read any of those emails learned something from it. With people from South America and other parts of the world providing context to something that I thought was just common sense, I was able to learn, and everyone that read those emails learned something new. We unlocked the maximum power of diversity. We could not have this conversation anywhere else. And it is important to understand that when you are being authentic, you are not trying to put your opinion as righteous, but just to start a conversation that you cannot have anywhere else. So next time you join a new community and you hear someone say something that sounds a bit different, odd, weird, don't condemn it, but rather listen to it. And if you can, be that one person who says something different. Thanks.